turned out. Yeah, she turned. Hey. Hey, yo, what's good, you guys? It's Boomer with Polystar, and today we're getting into illegal in the U.S., legal in the world. You feel me? So, yeah, man, let's get straight on into it, man. Make sure to hit that like button to spoil the video. Subscribe if you're new so that way you can join up with the all-star gang up in this thing. Let's get straight on into it, man. Let's go.
Welcome to America, the freest country in the entire world, which we know is true because it's a thing that people say. And you might actually believe that until you try to build housing somewhere or drink alcohol in public. But unfortunately, America is not the freest country in the world. In fact, according to some, it's barely in the top 20 freest countries. But the world is a diverse place, and one country's freedom is another country's criminal violation. And there are wide swaths of activities that are perfectly normal in other countries, but also very, very illegal in America. So today, let's look at some international liberties that could get you fined or locked up if you tried them stateside. And some of these foreign freedoms may surprise you. But let's start with a truly evil and dastardly product, one that actually specifically targets children. I'm of course talking about Kinder Eggs. Now, we like to say that children are the future, and here in America, the moment we find out that something puts children in danger, legislators pull out all the stops to ensure that we try to keep our kids safe. And that's why America has stood firm to cracking down on a grave and terrible threat to children's health and safety posed by toy-filled chocolate eggs. Kinder Surprise eggs, which famously contain a yellow capsule, which contains a small toy, have been a beloved staple for children around the world ever since the product's introduction in 1974 by
I've always seen those. I just thought they were chocolate eggs.
An Italian company. But in the United States, these toy-filled treats have been classified as dangerous illegal contraband. And some background. In 1938, the U.S. passed the Food, Drug, and Cosmetic Act, which empowered government agencies to regulate food safety. And under consumer safety regulations issued by the FDA and the Consumer Product Safety Commission, the sale and distribution of any food with a, quote, non-nutritive object embedded is prohibited. And that includes toys found inside confectionery items. Now, although you can find Kinder Surprise eggs in Canada and Mexico, don't try to bring them into this country or you risk serious fines. In 2011, the U.S. Customs and Border Protection, the CBP, seized more than 60,000 Kinder eggs from travelers' baggage and international mail shipments, more than twice that number from 2010. This caused the CBP to issue a press release in 2012 warning people to try to stop sneaking chocolate eggs into the country. Quote, also known as Kinder Eggs, these chocolate treats may be cute and seasonal, but they are too dangerous to children to be imported legally into the U.S. The problem is the small plastic toy inside the Kinder Egg. While sold in many countries, this product is banned from the U.S. because young children can choke on it. Now, some people have argued that these Kinder Eggs are not a risk to European children and Canadian children because European and Canadian children are smarter than U.S. children. Now, a few months after the CBP released that statement, a married couple from Seattle was detained at the Canadian border when the pair was caught with 6 Kinder Eggs from Vancouver. The couple was unaware that they were in possession of illegal ovarian contraband and was even more shocked that each egg carried a penalty of $2,500 per egg. Now, luckily for that couple, they were let off with a warning. But not to worry, American Kinder fans, because in 2018, Ferrero introduced a modified Kinder Joy egg that complies with U.S. regulations. Crucially, the Kinder Joy is not actually an egg-shaped chocolate. It's half a chocolate egg with wafer bits inside, while the toy is kept on the other side of the egg, away from the edible bit, which I guess is suitable for hapless American children. And despite the fear surrounding Kinder Eggs, there's little evidence that these chocolate delights are as dangerous as claimed. Now, there have been 7 reported child deaths between 1989 and 2016, a relatively tiny number in the face of billions of eggs sold. And furthermore, the packaging warns parents that the eggs are not suitable for kids under the age of 3 and supervision is recommended. But let's not leave food-based illegality, because while Americans remain deeply divided on a wide variety of issues, there's one thing that most of us can agree on, and that's that life begins at cheese. Now, over the last 40 years, our love of cheese, much like our waistbands, has grown. Between 1977 and 2020, we Americans have increased our annual cheese consumption from 16 pounds to 40 pounds every year, and I'm probably responsible for about half of that. So needless to say, we Americans love our cheese, whether it's on pizza, burgers, or in the form of 64 Jesus-infused slices of American cheese.
Have you been up all night eating cheese? I think I'm blind.
But if you're taking a cheese tour of the world, be careful what you bring back to the United States, because your love of cheese might just put you in legal jeopardy.
You guys enjoying that cheese? It's unpasteurized. It's illegal in this country.
In fact, many raw soft cheeses from France, like Bleu de Gex, Roquefort, or Reblochon, are illegal in the United States due to the FDA's strict cheese production regulations. Under these rules, cheeses made with raw, unpasteurized milk is illegal to import or sell in the United States unless it has been aged for at least 60 days. The reasoning is, of course, food safety, namely to minimize the risk of foodborne contagions like Listeria, Salmonella, and E. coli. And after 60 days, the acids and salts in raw milk cheese, coupled with the aging process, begin to naturally kill these types of harmful bacteria. But here's the thing. Anyone who has ever been to France knows that the cheese is so much better there. And it's not just raw cheese. The FDA has also cracked down on certain cheeses just because they contain too many live insects. That's the case with Casu Marzu, a traditional Sardinian sheep's milk cheese that's intentionally infested with live maggots. Casu Marzu, which literally means rotten cheese, gets its special flavor from being left to rot out among swarms of fly larvae. And while I'm told this hellish-looking cheese is actually quite delicious, it turns out that eating maggots is actually a tremendous health risk, earning the cheese the nickname the world's most dangerous cheese. And as a result, Casu Marzu is not only illegal in the US, but in the entire European Union. But here's the thing.
Hold up. So it's like if you eat the maggots, what would happen?
Marzu is not only illegal in the US, but in the entire European Union. But here's the thing. Anyone who has ever been to Sardinia knows the maggot-filled cheese is just so much better there. But the French have also been on the receiving end of big government's anti-bug-eating crusade. In 2013, the FDA angered American cheesophiles by blocking the import of French mimolette cheese, just because the cheese is naturally infested with cheese mites. And while most cheesemakers consider the mites a nuisance, mimolette producers actually encourage the microscopic critters to burrow into the rind in order to help the cheese ripen and produce its distinctively sweet, earthy flavor. Mighty. But the FDA has determined that eating too many mites could cause an allergic reaction, resulting in the ban of the Gouda-like cheese. And though the FDA has no legal limit on cheese mites, the agency indicated a target of no more than 6 mites per square inch, which mimolette simply cannot meet. So what are the consequences of contraband cheese?
We got a tip about some food entering the country illegally?
No.
Well, the failure to declare food products on your customs forms can result in fines of up to $10,000, and your unlawful cheese will be seized. But be forewarned, there is a thriving black market for cheese in the United States, and illegal cheese is very much on the government's radar. The Department of Homeland Security, the post-9/11 agency responsible for protecting the country from terrorism and Kinder eggs, has helped bust cheese smuggling rings into Canada. But unless you're a large-scale cheese smuggler, you're probably not looking at any jail time.
Wow, you got me. Good one. Making me think I was gonna die in federal prison. That's super funny. You scamps.
So worst-case scenario, you're probably looking at a fine and suffering the ennui of eating your dry, cheeseless crackers alone. But let's leave the food world and get into something that probably makes a little bit more sense. Now, a source of pride for the baby boomer generation is that everything was dangerous and no one seemed to care. Yes, that golden era where we lined our walls with cancerous asbestos, medical professionals smoked in hospitals, and people sold chemistry sets to children that contained real uranium. So of course, as a society, we used to let kids hurl giant darts into the air with impunity and call it a national pastime. That's the story of lawn darts, which have been illegal in the United States since 1988 after being linked to thousands of injuries and the deaths of at least 3 children. Lawn darts, known as javelin darts, or jarts, was a popular lawn game in the mid-20th century. Gameplay was actually quite straightforward. Players would take turns tossing giant darts into a circle placed about 35 feet away, a la cornhole, but with giant razor-sharp darts raining down from the sky instead of soft beanbags. Now, unfortunately, throwing a giant metal dart is a tremendous safety hazard, and government regulators eventually began to take notice.
This isn't child's play, according to the Food and Drug Administration.
The U.S.'s first attempt to outlaw the game was strenuously opposed by jart manufacturers, who fought the proposed FDA ban in court. In 1970, manufacturers actually won a compromise that would allow the sale of lawn darts so long as it was, 1, only marketed to adults, And 2, the product was no longer sold in toy stores, and 3, the product contained warning labels alerting consumers to keep it out of the reach of children. But unfortunately, these compromise measures were insufficient to prevent tragedy for aerospace engineer David Snow. In April 1987, Snow's 7-year-old daughter, Michelle, was killed by a lawn dart thrown by one of her 9-year-old brother's playmates in the backyard of their home in Riverside, California. The dart hit her head with approximately 23,000 pounds of pressure per square inch, and Snow's daughter died 3 days later. The grieving father then made it his mission to lobby public officials to take lawn darts off the market for good. Snow brought his complaint to the Consumer Product Safety Commission, who were persuaded to investigate Snow's claims. The commission discovered that over a period of 8 years, lawn darts had sent 6,100 people to the emergency room. 81% of those cases involved kids aged 15 or younger, half were 10 or younger, and many had suffered permanent injury, disability, or even death. In 1988, Snow prevailed in his crusade. The commission voted 2-1 to prohibit the sale of all lawn darts and had them removed from stores in time for that year's Christmas. And Canada also outlawed lawn darts in July of 1989. Now, if you want to play traditional lawn darts, you'll have to hop on a plane and visit the European Union, where the game is still legal. But here in the US, you can find a legal version with a modified plastic blunt tip that replaces the sharp metal tip. Because that makes quite a lot more sense. But that takes us to something that's...
Wait, but it's like, what if they bounce and all that?
Metal tip. Because that makes quite a lot more sense. But that takes us to something that's arguably even more dangerous. Smoking. Now, for most of the 20th century, cigarette smoking was glorified as the ultimate embodiment of the American West. Things like tough guys, rebels without a cause. In advertising, doctors endorsed their favorite brands, while we were told that women found smoking men irresistible. But this image of health and sex appeal slowly began to change starting in 1964. Or after the U.S. Surgeon General stated definitively that yes, smoking tobacco can be fatal. And research... But this image of health and sex appeal slowly began to change starting in 1964 after the U.S. Surgeon General stated definitively that yes, smoking tobacco can be fatal. And research shows that flavored cigarettes largely appeal to and are disproportionately used by those under 18 years of age.
That is not how to inhale, Bobby. You're hotboxing it.
So, to help combat youth smoking, in 2009, the FDA banned the sale of flavored cigarettes, including cloves, cinnamon, candy, and fruit flavors, pursuant to the Family Smoking Prevention and Control
This is an
Act.
actual
Though
episode?
menthol cigarettes were exempted from the ban, as well as non-cigarette tobacco products like electronic cigarettes, cigars, smokeless tobacco, and hookah. But the U.S. is not alone here, as countries with policies banning some or all types of flavored cigarettes include Canada, Brazil, Ethiopia, Uganda, Senegal, Niger, Mauritania, and 28 member states of the European Union, Moldova, Turkey, and Singapore. As for everyone else, well, not only are flavored cigarettes completely legal in the vast majority of countries, but the U.S. ban on cloves actually created an international incident. In April 2010, Indonesia, the world's top producer of clove cigarettes and the source of the vast majority of those smoked in the U.S., filed a trade dispute with the World Trade Organization. In its claim, Indonesia argued that the U.S. ban illegally discriminated against foreign products of flavored tobacco and created an unlawful advantage for domestic tobacco manufacturers. In September 2011, the WTO agreed, finding that the ban was indeed discriminatory because it prohibited clove cigarettes while allowing the sale of American menthol cigarettes.
My bad.
The opinion-
I'm just still laughing over that Bobby clip in King of the Hill. He turned green from smoking. Oh, like this was the cigarette.
Was affirmed on appeal in 2012. This ruling gave Indonesia the right to retaliate until either the U.S. changed its law to comply or the two sides reached a settlement. And in 2014, the two countries reached a final settlement on the issue, ending their dispute. Under the settlement, the U.S. agreed it would not arbitrarily discriminate against certain Indonesian tobacco products and promised to work with Indonesia on other trade issues. Now, a decade after the flavored tobacco ban, public health advocates seem to have been vindicated. A 2020 study published in the Journal of Adolescent Health found that the flavor ban was effective at reducing cigarette use among young people. In April of 2022, the FDA took additional steps against flavored tobacco products by proposing a ban on the sales of menthol cigarettes and all flavored cigars. In his proposal, the FDA argued that these actions had the potential to reduce disease and death by, quote, reducing youth experimentation and addiction and increasing the number of smokers that quit. Public comments will continue through July of 2022, but Kinder Surprise eggs are already banned, so the hard work has already been accomplished. But that takes us to the next American illegality, something you potentially might do every single day. Now, if you were an American pedestrian in 1903, crossing the street was a very simple endeavor. If you wanted to cross the street, you would just walk across the street. Before the introduction of cars, roads were seen as a public space that all citizens had a right to occupy, even children at play. Today, if you try and cross the street without using a crosswalk or cross the street when the traffic light is flashing do not walk, well, congratulations, you have committed the crime of jaywalking. Now, across the pond, some of our European allies have taken a more laissez-faire attitude towards jaywalking by making it totally legal. They just call it walking. Now, for example, there are no laws against jaywalking in Norway. Same goes for the UK, meaning that the Beatles didn't need to use the crosswalk for their famous Abbey Road cover. And the Netherlands used to have laws against jaywalking, but repealed these statutes in 1995 to simplify the traffic code and give pedestrians more freedom. In these countries, your right to cross the street freely shall not be infringed. But here in the United States, we've taken a more punitive approach to walking. Now, every year, cities like Los Angeles issue tickets to tens of thousands of pedestrians for jaywalking, which includes fines worth up to $200. But this was not always...
Yeah, but LA, like, up the ass, kind of uptight about, giving out tickets. You know what I'm saying? Like, they give out tickets like it's a sport. You feel me? Like, like they are the definition of trying to meet that quota.
The case. In fact, ticketing someone for jaywalking is a relatively young concept in the United States. According to University of Virginia historian Peter Norton, the notion of jaywalking, with jay being an early 20th century slur for someone stupid or unsophisticated, was introduced by a group of auto industry aligned groups in the 1920s as part of a concerted pro-car, anti-pedestrian propaganda campaign. But when cars were first introduced, there were a few crosswalks painted on the street. Pedestrians generally ignored the ones that existed because they didn't need to. But as cars became more widely available, pedestrian deaths skyrocketed, with hundreds of thousands of Americans, many children, being killed in car crashes for the first few decades of the 20th century. So to counter all this negative publicity, auto industries sought to enact traffic laws that would shift blame from drivers and their cars to the pedestrians themselves. And it worked. Not only did cities and states begin criminalizing jaywalking, but the U.S. government supported the anti-pedestrian propaganda campaign by ridiculing jaywalkers and placing blame on them for automobile crashes. And today, some criminal justice advocates believe jaywalking should be decriminalized altogether. But as an aside, you should all go watch Not Just Bikes and get orange pilled, because it's kind of stupid that we've ceded all of this real estate to cars for both driving and parking, when cities should be for the people themselves. But I'll get down off of my soapbox. And while it might sound counterintuitive, countries that allow jaywalking tend to have lower traffic deaths, as pedestrians tend to cross more safely and when they aren't worried about criminal penalties. And criminal justice advocates point out that jaywalking laws have a very disparate impact, with tickets not evenly applied and enforcement disproportionately targeting people of color. So far, in 2021, Virginia has heeded this call by becoming the first and so far only state to decriminalize jaywalking, and a similar bill to decriminalize jaywalking was vetoed by California's Governor Gavin Newsom in 2021. So, for better or worse, if you want to stay on the straight and narrow in 49 of the U.S. states, you'd better be sure to look both ways and stay in the crosswalk every time. For now.
Alright, you guys, so that was what was illegal in the U.S., or what is illegal in the U.S., but legal in the world, man. Honestly, like, these weren't, like, to me, even, like, all that bad, bro. It was, like, what, Kinder eggs or something? Like, okay, kids choke on toys. Okay. Of course, that would get banned. What is this? Cheese. Cheese, that whole mold. Oh, not mold. Freaking, like, mites and maggots. You know what I'm saying? I was like, bro, what? I mean, at first I thought, I was like, I wonder how that would take. But, since studies come out that, like, maggots can F you up, I'm like, oh, okay, nah. I'm Gucci. But, I mean, half of me is like, I'll be down to try it. But the other half is like, why would we eat something with bugs in it? You know what I'm saying? But it's like, when I was younger, and like, I don't think I've ever told this on camera before, but I used to eat like black ants and shit. Well, not eat, but it's like I tasted one. My bad, I made it sound crazy. I'm sorry, I used to eat black. I tasted one black ant, and like freaking, I was like, yeah, this shit's spicy. No, okay, no, I did eat a couple that day. I ate like 4, 5 or so. I was like, damn, these motherfuckers spicy. They good. You feel me? Well, that was about it, bro. I was like, yeah, I don't think I'm gonna do that again. Cause I don't know. I think I told my parents and they told me something or something. Or, I don't know. Shit must have came out crazy that night. But yeah, man. But yeah, I was like, yeah, I'll be down to try it. You know what I'm saying? But you know, if it's gonna F me up, then not. You know, it's like, but it wouldn't be my first initial impression to try it anyways. I'd be looking at it. I was like, I'd be like, do I want to taste that? And then, you know, I remember back to the black ant incident, and I'd be like, fuck it. It probably tastes good. You know, in China they eat crickets. I'm like, bro, even I was thinking that was nasty at the time because I don't know, I guess certain bugs, you know, creep me out. Well, not creep me out. Creep me out's crazy. Freaking some bugs is just like, no, they just look grosser than others. So I'll be like, yeah, nah, man. I don't know, but then again, that's subjective. You know, what's gross to another person cannot be what's gross to you. Yeah. But now I think about it, I was like, I'll probably try cricket. I'm like, bro, I'm at the point, I was like, bro, you know, you gotta try everything at least once. You know what I'm saying? Except fish, seafood. Never touch that. Ever. Alright, smoking. Nah, what is it? It's like, let's see, flavored cigarettes? Flavored cigarettes or something. Jaywalking. Yeah, all these aren't even that bad, bro. You know what I'm saying? So, it is what it is. But y'all let me know your thoughts about down in the comment section down below, man. Y'all know it's Boomer with Baldy Star, man. Make sure y'all hit that like, support the video, subscribe if you're new, so that way you can join up with the All-Star gang up in this thing. And I'm going to catch y'all in the next one. 100. Oh!
She turned up, she turned out. Yeah, she turned. Hey.
The glow is surreal, can't tell the time. The blinding lights, oh no, you could even faze me. I came up from none, so I stay down until I rise. Thank God for all He gave me. I look over oceans. She said, why you leave me on? I know you don't deserve me. We got icy cold, we were once to Albuquerque. Did me wrong, you don't deserve me. She said that you don't deserve me.